My name is David Brown. I have the privilege of being the best man tonight. Before I honor Chris, because that's all I'm going to do tonight, is honor him, I want to take this opportunity to thank the parents of Chris and Tracy for the beautiful wedding that we had and this great reception. So, to Bill and Don, and to Bob and Betty, thank you. And now a round of applause. No. So, a toast. You gotta listen to me for a couple minutes, come on. So, Chris and I go way back. We've known each other for about 15 years now. We met way back in 3rd grade, and there's just something about Chris that drew me to him from the beginning. Some intangible quality that he has. It's that Chris factor, you know? It's either that or the fact that he had my favorite video game, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Super Nintendo. And so I would go over to his house and play that game. And our relationship at that time really consisted of throwing controllers at one another and yelling at a TV. It had that real depth, you know, right from the beginning. And it was really unfortunate because in 4th grade, you know, that growth, that relationship that we had got stunted because I had to go to the new elementary school and you stayed at Woodland. So Chris and I didn't see each other for years, and we really didn't even start hanging out again until probably our junior year in high school. And really didn't do much of that either, and we probably wouldn't have seen much of each other, except he decided to jump on my coattails and come to the University of Illinois. So I decided to go to Illinois pretty early in the college acceptance process, and Chris took forever to make his decision. It's really weird because he's such a decisive person, you know. But anyway, he finally decided to go to Illinois. And then at that point, I had to make the choice: do I take the random roommate or to room with this guy? You know, he's the only guy I knew going there. And, well, we all make mistakes, right? So I ended up rooming with Chris as a freshman, and that was the first of 4 years that we roomed together. Is that right? Did I get the facts right so far? Okay. You can, by the way, you can convince Chris of any facts to be true. He doesn't really remember. So, that's a little toast.
Is it a toast or a roast?
Oh. It's toast, right? So anyway, but in those 4 years, seriously, that's when I really got to know Chris. That's when we really grew as friends, really got to know one another. And so I want to share just a couple things about those 4 years. Perhaps the first thing I want to say is that if you know anything about Chris, you know that he's a man of consistency, okay? This guy is steady as the sunset. And one thing that he always, let me just give you a few examples. One thing he always did was twice a day, he would take Listerine, he'd, you know, swish it around in his mouth like a normal human being. Everyone likes good breath. But then, after he would swish for about 30 seconds, he'd swallow. I don't know how many gallons of Listerine this man but I don't know if there's, you know, adverse health effects. There hasn't been studies on that, but just so you know, Tracy, it's terrible. Another thing Chris would always do, every night before he went to bed, he would take a teacup. I don't even know why we had teacups. There's our other roommates over there. I don't know why we had teacups in college. You must have brought them from home or something. But they would take a teacup and fill it up with cottage cheese. Just eat a teacup worth. And then go to bed. Or applesauce. Sometimes it's applesauce, right? Or he'd make this peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But not a whole peanut butter and jelly. Just a half. Just enough. This guy's 6'4". Okay? He can't eat a whole peanut butter and jelly sandwich. This, by the way, this led me to make double-decker peanut butter and jelly. We had to use even number of slices, right? That was my logic. But another consistency of Chris's was we played rec basketball at the rec facility fairly frequently, and without fail, every time we played, Chris would insist on being the point guard. Now, I mentioned he's 6'4", right? He was always the tallest guy on our team, yet he insisted on dribbling the ball to the floor, trying to set up some sort of offense, and then hovering around the perimeter and chucking threes. I think the guy got maybe 2 rebounds in 4 years, something like that. But no, did I mention? Yeah, I said the chucking threes. That led me to my next point. We played this video game in college occasionally occasionally, called Halo. And Chris was just, man, he was steady in that video game. And what I mean by that is this guy, without a doubt, is the best chucker, runner, and hider you've ever seen. And what I mean by that, there you go. What I mean by that is he would throw a grenade, run from the battle, and then hide and camp a rocket launcher. Okay? And we're talking without fail. He's so consistent. It's unbelievable. So, anyway, there's a couple ways he's consistent, but joking aside, he's also a very consistent hard worker, and I saw him work so hard throughout those 4 years. He studied, he did his homework, right? Yeah, and he graduated with like a 3.98, is that right? Yeah, right. He won't tell anyone because he's also steadily humble, but he seriously did, and he's a hard worker at P&G, and he's already on the management track there, and he has great things ahead of him, just due to his diligence. Right, buddy?
Whatever you say.
But another way that Chris is really steady and consistent is morally. I never saw him one time, I'm serious, I never saw him one time do something in college that made me question his ethics. He was always a morally upright and consistent person, and a really good role model for me in that. But when we think about consistency, oftentimes we think of someone being stagnant or not growing. And despite Chris's consistent lifestyle, he was also a man of growth in college. And particularly, he was a man of spiritual growth. And that's the most important thing that I know about you, and the most important thing that has drawn us. When Chris was a freshman, I don't even think he was a believer. And he and I started attending a Bible study through Campus Crusade for Christ. And he would just kind of sit there and not say much and internalize things. But he and I had a lot of conversations, right? In that little 10 by 12 box we call a dorm. And we had lots of conversations as a freshman and throughout our college life. And he wrestled with his faith. He sought the Lord. He read the scriptures. He became a man of prayer. And he grew in amazing ways through those 4 years. And he went from being someone who sat in a Bible study circle and didn't say anything to a man that owned his faith, that loved God, and he led a Bible study his senior year through Campus Crusade. And every week we had a group of young men over to our apartment, and he would pour into them. And it's just been amazing to see that happen in your life. And honestly, the best thing that we've ever shared was our, spiritual conversations and seeking after the Lord together. And so, without a doubt, I think Chris is fully equipped to be a husband in the image of Christ, the one that he's called to be. And I think with Christ's help, he will be that. And so I just want to read one passage to you guys. It's in Ephesians 5:25. This is who Chris is going to be in his marriage, without a doubt. Paul writes in Ephesians 5:25, "Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain, wrinkle, or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies." And Chris, I know that you know that verse, and we've talked about that, and I know that you're ready to do that, without a doubt. So with that, I would like us to raise our glasses in a toast to a lifetime of growing closer in love with God, and as a result, closer in love with one another, and living out the image of Christ in the church. Amen. Now let's get this party started.